It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here presenting this Choose Creativity Award to my mentor, Doug Hofstadter. I too read Doug's books in high school. They changed my life. He changed my life more than once. The first time was when I read the books, back at the age of 15 or so. The second, when I was so inspired by this that I went to Indiana to work with him. I wanted to understand the human mind, and Doug had more and better ideas about that than anyone. Doug has always wanted to understand the big C's of the human mind: concepts, cognition, consciousness, curiosity, and creativity. For Doug, concepts are living structures in our minds. When concepts dance together, you get cognition. When cognition circles back on itself in new ways, you get the strange loops that are responsible for human creativity. When these loops reflect on themselves, you get the riches of human consciousness. Some of you may have read Doug's book, I Am a Strange Loop. All about strange loops is the key to consciousness and the self. I would add, when Doug himself reflects on all of these loops, you get the joyous and loopy fountain of curiosity and creativity, which is Doug's life's work. Doug has inspired so many of us to make these topics our own life's work. I loved my years in Indiana working with him. I realize there may be some Indiana-New York tensions just lately arising from Eastern Conference finals, but now we're all in this, together. Go Indiana. Sorry. As a mentor, I love my years in Indiana working with Doug, thinking about the ever stranger loops that make up human consciousness. As a mentor, to me, and to students like me, he encouraged us to think clearly and carefully about these topics, but crucially, never losing our childlike curiosity and creativity. I can still hear his voice in my ears saying, keep it simple, keep it intuitive, put it in terms a child could understand. He said, put a big idea, you ought to be able to formulate it without highfalutin language. You ought to be able to do it in terms of horsies and doggies. That was his word, horsies and doggies. Creativity, creative insights are so often something that a child can understand and appreciate. I think all this makes Doug a wonderfully deserving recipient of the Choose Creativity Award for Curious Cognitive Explorer. So it's an honor to present this award to my friend and mentor, Doug Hofstadter.
I am embarrassed by all that praise, I have to say. It was lovely to hear that, all those wonderful words about this strange person, this stranger who also talks about strange loops. In any case, I'm honored to be honored this evening. What Marina and Kevin Krim have done in creating Choose Creativity is not only inspirational, but truly noble. I'm sure everyone here knows that, but I feel the need to say so explicitly. As for my own creativity, let me begin with a salute to Marina and Kevin in the form of an ambigram, which will come onto the screen, a calligraphic way of writing their names so that Marina, when rotated, I'm waiting for it to appear, by 180 degrees becomes Kevin, and, of course, vice versa. Here it is. Thanks for the applause. I have been involved in designing ambigrams for well over half of my life. I began with very humble examples in the 1960s, but then there was a hiatus of 2 decades. In the 1970s, I was deeply inspired by Scott Kim's ambigrams, and in the 1980s, I started making my own again. In fact, I got sucked into a wild vortex of ambigramia, from which I have never emerged. And finally, after all these decades, I have a book of my ambigrams coming out this July. That's on my daughter's birthday, July 22nd, called Ambigramia Between Creation and Discovery. That's ABCD, in which many of my ambigrams are displayed, and in which I discuss how one goes about creating or discovering ambigrams. My life has been a series of many such vortices of creation, or what I usually call binges. I'll talk about just one other one. After my first wife, Carol, died very suddenly of a brain tumor in December of 1993, when our children were very young, I was reeling in despair, and in grappling with that despair, I wrote down scads of memories of her in a binge that lasted for many years. But it's only recently, in the past couple of years, that I've finally written up Carol's life in the form of a pair of books called Once in a Blue, Blue Moon, a phrase that Carol casually uttered one day to describe something she thought was both magical and extremely rare. I don't intend for either volume of Once in a Blue, Blue Moon to be published, at least not in my lifetime, since the tales and pictures in them are too personal. But I would say that this 2-volume memoir, forged out of a tragedy, is among the most creative things I have ever done. My main principle in creativity is seek beauty. Beauty always makes the world a better place, and in bitter times, it helps assuage suffering. My other principle is believe in yourself. If you're powerfully pulled in a certain direction, just follow it. Plunge yourself into the pursuit that pulls you, even if others discourage you. You have to be true to your innermost self. I close my remarks with another ambigram that I recently came up with, inspired by the great cause that Kevin and Marina created, fostered, and have brought to full fruition, and which today, most remarkably, inspires thousands of children and teachers. Here, then, is my ambigram in honor of Choose Creativity. And it should rotate. I thought it was going to rotate. It should, but if it doesn't, that's all right. Did it? Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. I thank Marina and Kevin for all they've done, and I thank all those who are here this evening for being part, in your own personal way, of this noble endeavor.